Voters in Winhall were braced for a difficult discussion over tax rates at their town meeting on Tuesday, March 6th, at the Mountain School of Winhall. A standing room-only crowd of more than 160 residents came expecting to make tough choices around whether to absorb a 27-cent increase to their tax rate, which at $1.93 per $100 of assessed property value is already one of the highest in the area, or a 50-cent tax increase, which would have taken them to a rate of $2.43. That higher total would have occurred if voters had chosen to remain a so-called sending town to Burn Academy. That would have required them to pay a higher tuition rate of $17,065, nearly $1,500 per student higher than the announced state average tuition rate for next year's school year of $15,618. The higher tuition rate that would be paid to Burn would have kicked the school district into the so-called penalty box the state has set up to discourage what it sees as excess spending. That means for every dollar a district pays over the excess spending level of $17,816 per pupil, an additional dollar is added to the district's education spending per pupil before calculating the tax rate, which would have propelled the rate to the stratospheric level of $2.43. Other factors influencing their tax rate are a deficit left over from last year, plus a larger than expected influx of new students that arrived in the district. Winhall does not operate its own school and offers school choice to all its students, kindergarten through 12th grade. The district pays the state average tuition to all elementary and secondary schools, except to Burn, where it has paid the sending district rate. The Winhall School Board, after much agonizing deliberation, had proposed a school budget which only paid Burn the state average rate, which would have meant the town would no longer be a sending district and its students no longer guaranteed admission to the independent secondary school. Furthermore, parents who wanted to see their children attend or continue their education at Burn would have had to pay the differential between the statewide tuition rate and the higher out-of-district rate charged by Burn of $18,065, or nearly $2,500 more out of their own pockets. However, in a moment that delighted and stunned the assembled crowd, Seth Bongartz, Burn chairman of their board of trustees, announced that in view of the special circumstances Winhall was facing with the penalty box and their tax rate, Burn would accept the state average tuition rate and continue to include Winhall as a sending town for 1 year to give them some breathing space to sort things out.
So what we're going to do is accept the statewide average for Winhall this year. We've never done this before. We can never do it again. A partnership is a partnership. And this year, we're going to work partners too. We're going the extra mile to help make it possible for you. By the way, we love having your kids at Burn.
Voters then quickly approved the proposed school budget of roughly $3.5 million and turned to a discussion of next steps. The school board tabled an article on the warning that would have asked voters if they wanted to resolve future questions and articles on school choice by Australian ballot, and instead asked the voters for their approval in a non-binding resolution to allow the board to explore other options and bring that information before them as facts become better known down the road.
Is this body interested in pursuing all options, including options that are not K through 12 full choice? So I think the board feels that this community feels strong enough about choice that we needed to ask that question before we move forward, to just give everyone an opportunity to weigh in on how they feel. And if the vote comes back and it says no on Article 6, that means that you're not interested in pursuing any options that are not K through 12 choice. It means that regardless of what the tax rate is, regardless of what may come down the road, you as a community are not interested in any option that doesn't include K through 12 choice. I don't think you can draw the line any clearer between a yes vote and a no vote than that.
Voters then spent more than an hour discussing the pros and cons of school choice before approving the motion to allow the school board to proceed. That vote to approve was by a paper ballot and passed by an 81-75 margin.
Because I've talked to a lot of people in town over the past week. I haven't heard once I don't like school choice. Everybody likes the idea of school choice. everybody has kids that went through the system and benefited from it. So but it's getting to a point where it's hurting a lot of people, and the tax system is against us at the moment. So we need to find ways of working within it. We need to get creative, and we need to move outside of what the school board can do. So that sort of comes to forming some kind of auxiliary committee. Again, it probably would be non-binding, but it would be a committee that can come up with other options.
Christy McKenzie, the chairwoman of the Winhall School Board, gave us her takeaway from the discussion.
Basically, the town said, okay, we want more information. And by giving us that, we'll be able to digest the possibilities. We want it quickly. We don't want to take a long time with it. And then we'll be at least able to make more of an informed vote when we do vote down the road, which, something's coming. Something somewhere has to give. I'm not exactly sure on what level. I like to think that we might be able to do something at the state level that can help us with our residency, which is part of our problem. But barring that, we need to be able to look everybody in the eye and say, look, here are the options. And, while I might feel one way, the town might feel another way, and that's okay. But my concern was that I wanted people to have information and be able to ask questions before they actually make a vote on something so significant.
Before the school district portion of the meeting, voters approved adding $100,000 to the town's reserve fund to help continue repairs on the old town hall building, and approved the proposed town budget of roughly $2.5 million. All other articles on the municipal warning, including an appropriation of $2,500 to help rebuild an observation tower near the summit of Bromley Mountain, were approved. For the GNET TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.